And none of that is possible if you work with a bank or a financial institution, right? They're definitely not acting in your best interest. So
those were the bold words of Alex Mashinsky, the charismatic founder of Celsius Network, a platform that promised everyday investors the power of Wall Street without the middlemen. But behind the curtain of high-yield promises, promotional t-shirts, and weekly AMAs, Celsius was quietly crumbling. By the time the truth hit, $4.7 billion in customer funds had vanished into a maze of risky bets, executive payouts, and collapsed confidence. This is the story of Celsius Network. You're watching The Crypto Historian, where the past is encrypted and the truth is worth mining. Founded in 2017 by serial entrepreneur Alex Mashinsky, Celsius Network claimed to be a new kind of bank, one where the users earned the yield instead of the bankers. The pitch was simple. Deposit crypto, earn high interest, sometimes as much as 17% annually, depending on the coin. Celsius would then lend out those deposits to institutions and share the profits. Mashinsky was a natural showman. Known for helping invent voice over IP, VoIP, he positioned himself as a tech visionary on a mission to save retail investors from greedy banks. The company rapidly gained traction. By late 2021, Celsius boasted 1.7 million users, over $25 billion in assets, and a cult-like following. The app was sleek, user-friendly, and available in over 100 countries. Its referral program brought in thousands of new users every week. With slogans like "Unbank yourself" and "Do good, then do well," Celsius branded itself as both morally righteous and financially rewarding. One early investor said Celsius felt like a revolution with a heart. For a time it was. Many users were retirees, teachers, and small business owners. People drawn in by the promise of passive income in an age of low interest rates. But while the Celsius community was being fed hope and hype, a very different story was playing out behind closed doors. Celsius claimed to operate like a conservative financial institution. But internally, it acted more like a high-risk hedge fund. Customer funds were being lent out in under-collateralized, risky DeFi strategies. A significant portion was parked in illiquid assets, including GBTC, Lido's Steth, and even crypto mining operations in Texas. Celsius also issued its own token, CEL, and began manipulating its price by buying it with customer funds, a strategy that propped up its balance sheet on paper while draining its reserves. At one point, Celsius controlled over 5% of all ETH in circulation and had locked up billions in complex smart contracts. It even lent $75 million to investment firm Alameda Research, which would later collapse with FTX. Behind the scenes, Celsius executives described their positions as toxic and fragile. Internal documents show that Celsius often ran dangerously close to default, but continued advertising high yields to customers. Former employees raised alarms about risk management. Internal risk controls were said to be non-existent by insiders. One whistleblower claimed Celsius was flying blind, using spreadsheets instead of risk models. Blockchain analysts noted wallets taking on leverage and exposure that didn't match Celsius's public claims. As markets turned bearish in late 2021 and into 2022, Celsius's vulnerabilities began to show. When the Terra Luna ecosystem collapsed in May 2022, it sent shockwaves through the crypto lending space. Celsius had indirect exposure through DeFi platforms like Anchor Protocol and Curve. Fears of insolvency spread fast. On-chain sleuths began tracking Celsius wallets, which showed frantic attempts to rebalance collateral and avoid liquidations. The company quietly pulled over $500 million in assets out of Anchor just before Terra's collapse, a move that prevented further losses, but raised questions of insider foresight. By June 12, 2022, Celsius paused all withdrawals, swaps, and transfers, citing extreme market conditions. Users were locked out of their funds. Over $4.7 billion of customer crypto was frozen. In reality, Celsius was teetering on insolvency. Celsius filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in July 2022. Court documents revealed a company hemorrhaging money, over $1.2 billion in balance sheet holes, lavish executive compensation, and detailed spreadsheets tracking how insiders cashed out their own funds while customers were left behind. Alex Mashinsky himself had withdrawn $10 million just weeks before the freeze. His wife also withdrew over $2 million. Celsius insiders, including former CFO Rod Bolger, Chief Compliance Officer Oren Blonstein, and Chief Strategy Officer Daniel Leon, became key figures in the legal unraveling. An internal document labeled Mashinsky's Bag detailed weekly CEL token sales orchestrated by Mashinsky, which netted him tens of millions while the price was propped up artificially. Executives frequently discussed changing the narrative on Telegram and Slack, and at one point considered hiding the extent of their ETH exposure by shifting to wrapped versions on-chain. Leaked audio of an internal company meeting captured Celsius leadership coaching staff on how to keep the public calm while searching for legal and PR spin to avoid panic. In July 2023, Mashinsky was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, market manipulation, and wire fraud by the DOJ, SEC, FTC, and CFTC. He pled not guilty and was released on $40 million bail, one of the largest pre-trial bails in crypto-related history. The government alleged that Mashinsky misled customers about Celsius's financial health and profited from artificially inflated CEL tokens while assuring users their funds were safe. Celsius, meanwhile, began a complex restructuring process that aimed to partially repay creditors through illiquid assets, mining revenue, and remaining crypto holdings. Some Celsius assets were sold to Fahrenheit LLC, a consortium that included Arrington Capital and US Bitcoin Corp. Victims formed advocacy groups. Lawsuits were filed worldwide. A key question in court became whether Celsius accounts were custodial or loan agreements. The distinction would decide if users were unsecured creditors or owners of their coins. The ruling? Celsius had legal ownership. Customers had only claims. As of 2025, Celsius is a shell of what it once was. Its native token CEL is practically worthless. Mashinsky awaits trial in the Southern District of New York. Creditors, numbering over 300,000, are still fighting to recover what they can. A forensic analysis of Celsius's books found that over $1.5 billion in liabilities could never be repaid due to missing or illiquid assets. The mining arm was sold at a steep discount. Remaining funds are being distributed in stages. The Celsius collapse prompted renewed scrutiny of crypto lenders. US regulators have since increased pressure on firms offering yield products, and the phrase, "not your keys, not your coins," has taken on renewed importance. The collapse of Celsius served as a cautionary tale about mixing Wall Street ambition with crypto chaos. Celsius melted down not because it failed to innovate, but because it refused to respect risk. Its downfall left a crater in the lives of its users and a deep scar on the crypto industry. If you learned something new, drop a comment below, hit like, and subscribe for more crypto history, the kind they don't put on the blockchain. Next up, Plus Token, the billion-dollar scam that rocked Asia and vanished into thin air. You've been watching The Crypto Historian, where the past is encrypted, and the truth is worth mining.